Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ramesh Gomasa, Assistant Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at SR University, Warangal. So in the previous lecture, we discussed about explanation of biodiversity conservation and major methods which are used to protect the plant and animal species from the extinction. So also we covered in situ conservation strategies and ex situ conservation strategies, especially for protected areas, gene banks. Some are related to the biosphere reserves and the role of conservation programs in maintaining ecological balance. Right. So today in this lecture we'll discuss about renewable energy resources. So before starting this session, so what is energy? Can you think? What is the general definition of energy? Energy is one of the most important requirement for human life and economic development. In modern civilization, which is depends on heavily for energy in terms of transportation, industries, agriculture, communication, and domestic activities. Okay, in modern society, which is completely depends on energy resources for the different applications, like in terms of transportation, industries, etc. Okay, so traditional most of world's energy demand has been fulfilled using fossils fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas, right? Like conventional energy sources, which are rapidly depleted, right? So there is a depletion of conventional energy sources. So, excessive use of these conventional energy resources which creates major environmental problems. Okay, these are the conventional materials which are widely using for the different energy sources so that the natural resource so that these energy sources are depleting. So, which creates problem on environment, right? So, which creates major environmental problems like air pollutions, greenhouse gases like CO2 gas released into the atmosphere, and climatic change. Okay, so the major problems are related to the pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and climatic change. So in addition, these fossil fuels which are non-renewable source, right? These are belongs to non-renewable source of energy and which are getting depleted rapidly with the time. So to overcome these kind of problems, we need renewable energy resources, right? Because uh, these are the conventional energy sources which are overused, so that the depletion of conventional energy sources which creates the problem on environment. So to overcome these kind of problems, we need to focus on renewable energy sources, right? So which is important because which provide cleaner, sustainable, and environmentally friendly alternatives for future energy needs. Okay, which provides cleaner, sustainable, environmental friendly compared to the conventional energy sources, right? So energy which is essential for human life as well as economic development, and our modern society completely depends on energy based on the conventional energy resources, but the overuse of this conventional energy resources creates the problem on environment. So we need to focus on alternative sources, so it should be cleaner, sustainable, and it should be eco friendly, right? So this is the transition from conventional energy to renewable energy, so that we can achieve our sustainability. Okay, we can save our resources effectively for future generation without compromising the sustainability aspect. So what are the energy resources? What are the different energy resources? So energy resources are natural sources, like you can see from sunlight, So natural sources like sunlight, so we can useful energy, we can get useful energy from the natural resources. So in a simple definition, energy resources are natural sources from which energy can be obtained and utilized for various human activities. Okay, so the source is from the nature and we can utilize it from our activities. Okay, so these resources which provide power or electricity which are necessary for generating electricity, operating industries, transportation and agriculture and other household activities, right? So same, the whatever the power we are getting from the natural sources we can use for our human activities without compromising our human activities, but the source is changing from conventional to nature. And you can see some of the examples, like examples of energy like coal, petroleum, natural gas, solar energy, wind energy, and hydroelectric power energy. Okay, these are the some of the different resources for energy. So which are essential for economic growth as well as technological development. Okay, so without energy, so modern society cannot function, right? Because everything depends on the energy only. Okay, our all activities which are more focusing on energy based, so without energy modern society cannot be function effectively, right? So classification of energy resources. Energy resources are broadly classified into two categories. So first one is non-renewable energy resources and other one is renewable energy resources. So non-renewable energy resources, so these are the resources which are limited in terms of quantity, and if we take million of years to form a naturally, right? So these are the resources which are available within a limited quantity. So once we use, they cannot be replaced quickly because these are non-renewable source, right? Like example, you can see coal, petroleum, natural gas, which are belongs to non-renewable kind of energy resources. And coming to other energy resources like renewable energy source, so these resources are naturally replenished and which continuously available in the nature. Okay, so which are renewable energies resources. So these are considered sustainable and environmentally friendly resources. Like you can see, the examples are solar energy, wind energy, hydroelectric energy, geothermal energy. Okay, so energy resources are classified into two types based on non-renewable energy and renewable energy. So this classification is important because renewable energy resources are considered as the future of sustainable energy development. Okay, because renewable energy resources which are important and which are considered as future of our sustainable energy development. And non-renewable energy resources, non-renewable energy resources which are exhaustible resources, so which are formed from ancient organic matter. Okay, which are formed from ancient organic matter over the million of years. So they are currently the major sources of the globe, like in terms of energy production. So these are the currently major source of global energy production. So because they provide high energy output. Okay, so it can provide high energy output and which is reliable for power supply. Okay, which is reliable for power supply. Okay, the key characteristics once again you can see. So these kind of like non-renewable energy resources can be formed over million of years and which limited reserves in the globe, so which can produce high amount of energy as output and the major source of industrial energy. Okay, these are major source for industrial energy. However, these resources create serious environmental problems. Okay, so like resource depletion, air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and climate change. So these non-renewable energy sources which creates a problems in terms of resources, in terms of pollution, and which is adversely affect on climatic change. So in addition to their reserves which are limited and continuous extraction which leads to depletion of resources. So dependence on non-renewable resources is not a sustainable practice, especially in a long term. Okay. So therefore dependence on non-renewable energy sources which is not suitable for sustainable practice. So renewable energy resources which are sources that are naturally replenished and continuously available within the nature, right? So the energy resources from the nature itself. So these resources can be used repeatedly. These resources can be used repeatedly. So without any significant depletion, right? Because these are the sustainable which are available in the nature. So the key characteristics of renewable energy resources, which are first one is which is a sustainable energy resource, and which is environmentally friendly like eco-friendly, and which is does not much contribute pollution, and the energy resources are naturally available in the environment, right? So these are the key characteristics of renewable energy resources. So the examples are like solar energy, wind energy, hydroelectric power energy, geothermal energy, and biomass energy. Okay. So renewable energy plays an important role in reducing the environmental pollution. So which will be supporting sustainable development. Okay, so the key point from the slide is renewable energy resources which reducing the pollution and which supports for sustainable development. And what is the need of renewable energy? Renewable energy becomes essential because of increasing the environmental challenges as well as energy challenges. Okay, renewable energy becomes essential and which is important because of increasing the environmental challenges and energy challenges. So depletion of fossil fuels, which reserves are limited, which are continuously decreasing due to high consumption, environmental protection. So, which whatever the burning fossil fuels, which releases pollutants in the atmosphere and release of greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. Okay, which will damage the environment. And third one is sustainable development. So renewable energy resources which ensure that energy availability for future generations without causing severe environmental degradation. Right. Next, energy scrutiny, like energy security. So which can reduce dependence on imported fuels because we are using local renewable energy resources. Okay, so that we can reduce depends on imported fuels, like in terms of energy security. And climate change mitigation. So renewable energy which reduces carbon emissions and which helps to control global warming so that we can control climatic changes. Okay. So the primary reasons for the need of renewable energy sources which lies in depletion of fossil fuels and to production of environment to achieve sustainability and to save our energy security and to control our climatic change conditions. like to mitigate or to prevent the climatic change conditions. So the advantages are which is eco-friendly and which can reduce greenhouse gas emission in the environment, and which is a sustainable practice which is inaccessible, and the operating cost is very low, and which reduces dependence on conventional materials like fossil fuels, and which is suitable for rural electrification, and which promotes energy security, right? So these are the primary advantages with the renewable energy. And the key point you can note from the slide is renewable energy which supports sustainable development, because the sources are available in the nature, we can consume or we can use repeatedly. So we can achieve and we can support for sustainable development goals. So the primary limitations of renewable energy. So despite of many advantages, renewable energy also has some limitations because high initial cost. So installment of renewable energy systems which require significant of investment. So the initial cost is high, and which is depends on weather dependence. Like you can say, take examples like solar and wind energy. So which is depends on environmental conditions. Next one, intermittent energy supply. So the energy generation which may fluctuate, which is depends on sunlight, wind speed, and water availability. Okay, the energy generation which may fluctuate because which depends upon other factors like other parameters like sunlight, wind speed, and water availability, etc. Right. And next one is energy storage challenges. So efficient energy storage, we required efficient energy storage systems, so which is a little bit expensive, and we need technological challenges also, we need to develop our technology also. So efficient energy storage systems and technology also we required in terms of storage energy. And land requirements. So some renewable energy sources which requires large land area. Okay, so these limitations can be reduced through technological advancements and better energy management systems. Okay, so these are the primary limitations of renewable energy. Solar energy. Solar energy is energy obtained from sunlight in the form of heat and light. Okay, solar energy which belongs to renewable energy, renewable source of energy. The source is from sunlight in the form of heat and light. So it is the one of the most abundant available renewable energy in our earth, right? Most abundant available renewable energy. So solar energy can be converted into useful energy by using solar photovoltaic systems, right? Because of these using some systems like solar photovoltaic systems and solar thermal systems, so we can convert our solar energy into useful electrical energy systems, okay, for our daily applications. So you can see some of the applications of the solar energy are electricity generation, water heating, cooking, street lighting. Okay, these are the some of the application which are belongs to solar energy. Okay, so ultimately solar energy is clean, renewable, widely available, and which is one of the fastest growing renewable energy technology. Working of solar photovoltaic cells. Solar photovoltaic cells which converts sunlight directly into electricity. Okay, so which convert sunlight directly into electricity. So you can also see the working process. The sunlight falls on photovoltaic cells. semiconductor materials which absorbs solar materials like solar radiation, and electrons becomes energized and which moves, okay, so that electric current is generated. So silicon is the most commonly used semiconductor material in the solar cells. Okay, so the process is very simple. The working process, like sunlight which falls on photovoltaic cells, like semiconductor materials which absorb the solar radiation, so that the electrons become generated and which can transfer, so that the current can be generated from the sunlight. So silicon, which is the most commonly used material for the semiconductor, okay, in the solar cells. Solar photovoltaic systems, so which are widely used because they generate electricity without producing pollution or noise, like in terms of sustainable way, right? The futures are, so the solar energy which is clean and pollution free, which is useful for electricity generation for our daily life applications. And the advantages and limitations of solar energy, you can see advantages in terms of abundant amount of energy source available within the environment, and which is non-polluting, and we can use multiple times repeatedly because which is renewable and sustainable. There is no charges is required for maintenance, like maintenance charges are very less. And the limitations are their higher installation cost, and which is depends on the weather, which requires energy storage system, and the efficiency during the night and cloudy condition is less. Okay, so despite the limitations, solar energy is considered as most promising renewable energy technology in the modern days. So next one is hydroelectric power. Hydroelectric power, which is electricity generated using flowing or falling of water. Okay, so the electricity generated using flowing or falling of water. So it is the one of the oldest and most widely used renewable energy sources. Okay, the energy or electricity which is generated from water, and it is one of the oldest and most widely used renewable energy resource. So the principle, you can see the potential energy of stored water, which is converted into mechanical energy, and then it is converted into electrical energy, right? The potential energy which is converted into mechanical energy, and further it is converted into electrical energy. Like you can see the components for the electric generation, you can see dams, reservoirs, turbines, generator. Okay, these are the general components for hydroelectric power generation. The examples for hydroelectric power generations are Nagarjuna Sagar Dam and Tehri Dam. Okay, so these are providing hydroelectric power plants which provides large scale electricity generation. Okay, these are the projects which are producing large scale energy generation. Working of hydroelectric power plant. So the working process can see water which is stored in a reservoir in the dam. So the water will flow through the pipes toward the turbine. The flowing water which rotated through the turbine, and turbines drives the generator, so which generates the electricity. Okay, so hydroelectric power plants which are reliable and capable of producing large quantity of electricity in a continuous process. Okay, so the working process is very simple. So water is stored in the reservoir or dams, and the water is flows to the turbines. These turbines rotates and which generate electricity. Okay, so this electricity we can use for our daily life applications. Advantages and limitations of hydroelectric power are, So first the advantages, so which is a clean energy source and there is no fuel requirements and the operating cost which is low and we can use for long operational life, and the limitations are so construction cost which is higher and displacement of people which is also one of the limitation, and which is also affect on ecological disturbance and which is affect the aquatic ecosystem. So these are some few limitations with the hydroelectric power generation. Wind energy, so the energy is obtained from moving air. Okay, the energy source which is from air. So wind energy is obtained from moving air using wind turbines. Okay, using wind turbines we can get energy. The working principle you can see wind which rotates the turbine blades which are connected to the generator. Okay, wind rotates the turbines which are connected to the generator which are producing the electricity. Right, wind which rotates the turbine blades which are connected to the generator which can be produced electricity. So the applications like in terms of electricity generation, water pumping and agriculture applications. So wind farms, you can see large group of wind turbines which are installed together. So India is the major wind energy projects in the states like Tamil Nadu, so which is promoting the wind energy as a renewable resource, renewable energy resource like source. Advantages and limitations. So this we discussed in the previous slides. So examples like wind farms in the Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, which are supporting the wind energy in the India. Okay. So see, these are the some of the advantages and limitations related to the wind energy. So next one is geothermal energy. So geothermal energy, which is the energy is obtained from heat which is stored inside the earth. Okay, the energy which is obtained from inside the earth. So geothermal energy is considered as reliable because its internal heat which is continuously available. Right. So the energy we are getting from the earth, right, so its internal heat which is continuously available, so that which is one of the renewable source of energy. Okay, like you can see some of the source like hot rocks, underground steams, hot water reservoirs, and applications are for electricity generation, space heating, and industrial use. So the working principle or working process of geothermal power plant. First, underground heat which produces steam. Okay, underground heat which produces steam. The steam rises to the surface and steam which rotates the turbines. The turbine drives the generator so that electricity will be produces. Right. So geothermal power plants which produces relatively low emission as compared to the fossil fuels and power plants. Okay, compared to the conventional energy sources, these geothermal power plants which produces very less emissions. Okay, advantages and limitations of geothermal energy. So the primary advantages are, so we can get energy continuously and which is environmentally friendly because the release of emissions are very low, negligible, so which requires small amount of area, and the limitations which is limited suitable for the particular locations, and some related to cost. High installation cost is required for generating geothermal energy, and which is possible release of underground gases. Okay, because it can generate small amount of gases, so which are small release of gases, one of the limitations in the geothermal energy. Coming to the comparison of renewable energy resources, so in terms of solar, hydroelectric, wind, and thermal energy, you can see from the slide, solar, the primary source with sunlight, which is a major cleanest energy resource, and the limitation is which is depends on weather. Similarly, in hydroelectric, which depends upon the water and which is one of the reliable source for generating energy and which is effect on ecological impacts like in terms of aquatic systems. Next, related to the wind, the primary source for the energy is from the air. There is no fuel cost and the limitation is which is intermittent. Next one is geothermal. So the source is from the earth's heat. So the major advantages is we can get the energy in a continuous form, but which is suitable for particular locations. So renewable energy sources in India, you can see the major renewable resources as we discussed in the previous slides, which are depends upon the solar, wind, hydropower, and biomass. And we required some government initiations like in terms of national solar mission, wind energy projects, and renewable energy subsidies, so that everyone will come move forward and encourages the renewable energy sources in the India, right? So that government need to take some initiations based on the renewable energy sources and importance which supports sustainable energy development and to achieve the SDG goals. Benefits like it reduces the pollution and decreasing the greenhouse gas emissions, and we can reducing the climatic change, and we can save our natural resources and reducing the ecological degradation. So overall it can promote environment sustainability. So future prospects, so increasing of global energy demand, we require renewable energy resources and we require technological advancements and growth of green energy sector, smart grids and energy storage system which is required for future renewable energy, and we need to completely transit from conventional energy to renewable energy so that we can control our carbon emissions and we can control our carbon neutral economy also. Okay, so the key observation for renewable energy which is becoming the future of global energy production. So this is the summary of today's lecture. So energy resources are classified into two types based on the renewable and non-renewable resources. So renewable resources, the energy is sustainable and eco-friendly. The major renewable sources are solar, hydroelectric power, wind, and geothermal energy. So, which produces less pollution and which is supports sustainable development goals. And we can shift from conventional to nature-based solution for the future energy security. Thank you.